7th of October, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
Good morning, Lou.
Good morning, Rabbi. How are you?
Oh,
Welcome back, Rabbi.
I'm glad to be back. Baruch Hashem. Good morning, good Chodesh. How are you, Mayor? How are you, Lou?
Baruch Hashem, a good and
Baruch
Good Chodesh. Very good, man. Okay, let's see. I'm going to put this on the screen because I'm going to start a discussion with this, something we've discussed in Halakha before, but I don't want to really concentrate so much on the Halakha aspects, but we'll start our discussion based on the Halakha, which you'll see is the Shulchan Aruch, which we actually have learned several times before. This is the Halakha about learning the Shtaim Echad Mikra Targum. As you see, if you see on your screen, do you see, is it large enough and clear enough on your screen?
Yes.
For me, it is, yes.
Okay, good. So let's go with the screen. It's only a short few lines here, so I don't think I have to really send it out. But unless, of course, if you really want it, I'll send it out. I don't mind. Yeah, let's start. Let's look at the Shulchan Aruch, and we're gonna just spend today on this one particular point. And it's worth reinforcing some things that we've been dealing with the last month or so. Yeah. Lou or Mayor, whoever would like to read, can go ahead if you like.
I'll read.
Sure.
Okay, so this is a Shulchan Aruch,
Right.
and there's Af Al Pi, Adam Shomea Kol HaTorah Kula Kol Shabbat Bitzavor.
Bitzibor.
So even though a man hears all the Torah, all Shabbos with the tzibur,
Like a person who goes to shul every Shabbos, right? If he goes to shul every Shabbos and he pays attention, so throughout the course of the whole year, he's going to have the opportunity of hearing the entire Torah being read during the Kriyas Torah, during the entire passage of the year, right? The person goes regularly, religiously, no pun intended. If he goes religiously to shul every Shabbos, right? So he'll have the opportunity of having the Torah read to him in the tzibur, and so therefore through the course of the year it'll pass that he's heard every word that's written in the Sefer Torah. So nevertheless, Alpha P, nevertheless that this is the case for a person who goes to shul regularly, nevertheless he has a personal obligation as well, as it says. Continue on.
Chayev likros la'atzmo b'chol shavua harshas oso. He's obligated to read for himself every week the parsha of the week, parsha oso hashavua, shenaim twice, mikra, to read it, va'achar targum, and afterwards to translate.
That's ve'echad. That's the Dalet. Ve'echad targum.
Oh, ve'echad, and once in translation, afilu atros v'diven.
Even these are two, as it says, you see there, it says B'midbar Lamed Beis Gimel. That means these are two names of places. Meaning there's no, in general, you don't find a translation or of a name. A name is a name. So you don't need to see it So you would say maybe perhaps since it's only a it's a name, it's just being repeated in the Targum. Maybe you don't have to say that. Nevertheless, he still has to say that also. Twice he has to read the pasuk, the verse, and once he has to read the Targum, even though there may not be any real change because it's simply a listing of names.
Okay. Now we're going to the Mishnah Brura.
Right.
Likros la'atzmo b'chol shavua. On the phrase to read for himself every week, hayinu shalo yakdim likros kodem oso. It is that he's not yakdim is to establish.
Yakdim, that would be Makayim. That would be with a yud instead of the dalet. This is Yakdim to proceed or to preempt and read beforehand, kodem, and to read before, and that's shvua. Meaning the obligation is to read. Like now we're in Parshas Noah, so a person should be busy reading the Echad Shtayim Echad Mikatarim for the Parsha of Noah, and to finish it by this coming Shabbos. And then the next week will be Lech Lecha, but it wouldn't be proper to read Lech Lecha this week.
Ah,
Each meaning the that's what, because if you look at it, the words in the Mechaber are a little bit extra. He said Likros la'atzmo b'kol shavua. He has to read for himself every shvua. I mean, every week he has to read that parsha of that shvua of that week. He has to read that parsha, that portion of the Torah for that which is assigned to that particular week. Sometimes it gets a little complicated. It's like sometimes there could be double parshas. Sometimes Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Israel could be out of sync with each other. So a person's going to travel, right? Sometimes he's going to travel and he's going to lose a parsha if he's depending which direction he's going, right? So.
right.
So, and then it's a question of hearing it, and it's a question of which parsha to do, right? So it can get a bit complicated, but the basic obligation is that he should read each parsha in the parsha which it's going in the week that's going to be read in the coming week when it's read in shul.
So on Shabbos afternoon after Mincha, that's when you can start reading the following week's Parsha.
Right. That's explained further on in the halacha. If we would be spending this time in the halachic section of our learning, then we would see the Mechaber speaks about that in depth about when the actual beginning of the obligation begins.
Okay, great.
Right. But that's true in general. After the congregation has read for the next week's parsha, which begins usually at Mincha time, it's a question about Mincha Gedola, which is early on in the day. Like now, it's about Mincha Gedola is about 1 o'clock, 1:15.
Mm-hmm.
Or the question is it Mincha Ketana? So there's a little bit discussion about that as to which Mincha it goes, but in general, the psak halacha is in general is when the first minyan that's going to have a reading of the next week's parsha, so that would even be at the beginning of the Mincha Gedola.
V'gam lo yachar did tzarich lehishlim parshioso im hatzibur. So also, what is yachar?
Not to delay from something which is going to be afterwards. Meaning, don't delay. Meaning, don't you shouldn't really be doing bereshis now. Now, again, if a person was, say, for example, in an oinus, let's say something happened to him, he was not able to finish Parshas Bereshis for some whatever reason, right? So it's b'di'evid but nevertheless, they still should finish. He still should complete it. That's also a halakha which is discussed in detail by the Mechaber, that if a person missed out a parsha or was not able to hear to do the targum and the Shtei Mikra targum, so he has an opportunity all up until the time of Simchas Torah to complete the parshas he missed, right? So
Right.
so the halacha is, however, that a person should not delay and put it off. If he should really be doing each week in its particular time.
V'chol hamishalim
Hamaslim, we call hamaslim.
v'chol hamaslim parshiosav im hatzibur ma'arichin lo yimiv ushno sav. So all of the mishalim, what are they?
Anyone who's maslim, meaning anyone who completes the parshas, meaning along with the tzibur.
With the tzibur, what is ma'arichin?
He extends for him, or he lengthens
His days.
right, and his
years.
and his years.
Okay, so that's like a segula.
And well, that's part of what I want to discuss here exactly. What you call it, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you'd call it, if it's called a segula or not. Maybe we can come to some kind of conclusion about that. But it's based on the Gemara, and now you see the Gemara, which is basically the Mechaber. The Shulchan Aruch is really basically a quote of the Gemara. It's worthwhile seeing again. You can review it.
Amar Rav Huna Bar Yehuda Amar Rebbe Ami. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehuda, said in the name of Rav Ami, Le'olam Yashlim Adam Parshiosav Im Hatzibur. If a person finishes the parsha, his parsha with the congregation, Shnaim Mikra ve'echad Targum, two readings and one translation, Va'afilu, and even Atros the divan, and even including the names of places or people.
These are places, yeah.
Places. Shechol hamashlim parshiosav im hatzibur me'arichin lo yamav ush no sav. Everyone who completes his parsha with the tzibur, he increases for himself his days and his years.
Oh, very good.
So that's the source.
That's right. That's the source. That's the Gemara, which is basically a straight quote from the Chaber, and with the addition of the Mishnah Brewer. The Mechaber never mentioned about the, if you want to call it the segula or the promise or the blessing of Marichin Lo Yama V'Shana, right? But that's what that's based on the Gemara there, and so
the Gemara gives no reason; it just states it as a fact.
States it as a pure fact. That's why I want to spend a little time on here, to try and understand that better. What's the what's the point here? So we have, I'll try maybe, let's see. The Maharal Prague explains it. He has a somewhat of a detailed explanation. I'm just trying to see if that would be the best thing we could see. 1 second. Okay. Okay. Let's try this. Maybe we'll try this to help us out here. 1 second. All right. Maybe I'll send this to you, because first of all we have to try and understand what is it. It's actually, if you notice, it's a double expression here: yom of, days, and years, meaning, and what's the if you have length of days and length of years. It seems to be somewhat repetitious, no?
Yes. Plus, we got to understand, what does Maritin actually mean?
Right.
But we know we have that story about the bird, about the boy who climbs a tree and shoots away the bird and then falls and dies.
Right. That's with Acher. Yeah. Right. Okay. Now. Okay. I'm gonna send this to you because it's a little bit long. Right. So I don't want to belabor the point on the screen so much. I'm just preparing it to send out to you. I'm not sure if this is going to be a direct answer to the questions, but we can at least begin to understand things a little bit. It should be coming to you in a moment. Hopefully I can get this sent out pretty clearly. Okay. So, okay. All right. So I'll tell you one explanation I did hear about what's the lengthening of days and lengthening of years, meaning a person, his days can be filled. He can have, person can wake up extra early and stay up a little extra late, and therefore his days are lengthened by the amount of things he can accomplish, right? So and then that's independent from the amount of years he actually lives.
Right.
So that's one explanation. What is it? The length of years and lengths of days. That could be an explanation of what the double expression is over here. Now, okay, let me see if I can get this mail program to work. Nothing's working right now. Oh, here we are. Okay. Hold on. Just going a little bit slow. So a person can, and there is an explanation why is this promise attached to this mitzvah. Usually you don't see promises like this attached to mitzvahs. A mitzvah is a mitzvah. You have to do the mitzvahs whether you have a promise for something with it or not, right? So one explanation I heard was that since a person might think he has to put in extra time, right, to learn the two psukim and the one targum, he may be losing out in terms of the time that he has available to do things. The promise is you're not going to be losing out, right? You'll be able to make up all the, so to speak, lost time, or your imagined lost time. And okay, here, so I'm sending this
Is that a
out.
general principle that you don't lose out for doing mitzvahs, or is it only specifically when you get a promise like this?
No, I would say in general, you never lose out. A person never loses out.
I'm wondering if it doesn't have something to do with the idea that perhaps that the learning that you're doing invigorates you, and that causes you to get more out of your day.
Right. Could you just repeat that? We were just breaking up a bit when I didn't hear you clearly, Lou. Could you repeat that statement?
So I'm wondering if part of what's going on is that the learning that you're doing, the reading the two readings in the translation during the week invigorates you, and maybe that means so because you're invigorated, you're staying up longer, you're getting more out of your day.
Definitely so. I think I mentioned this at least once I mentioned, maybe twice, that one of my chavrusas that I used to learn with here in the yeshiva is a physician, a family doctor, and American family doctor. So he once told me that there was the Israeli universities did a study here in Eretz Israel. They wanted to discover where the place in Eretz Israel was that they had the most longevity. Where did the people live in Eretz Israel that lived the longest?
Oh, yes.
Statistics, right? So they thought maybe it would be in
Neighbor.
well, that was what that's what it turned out to be. Turned out they didn't guess B'nai Brak. They thought it might be in Herzliya, where people do a lot of exercise, or maybe in Arad, where the air is very clear and dry, right? They were going after maybe climate, or maybe after the exercise that people would do. So it turned out that B'nai Brak was the place that had the longest life expectancy. And so they wanted to try and discover why. Why did they have the longest life expectancy, those people who lived in B'nai Brak? So they discovered that the religious Jews, they're always very goal oriented, and they're always accomplishing things, and that gives them, as Lou said, that invigorates them. A person sets a goal, he has something to accomplish, and he accomplishes his goal, so he feels invigorated, he feels very good about himself, and it gives him buoyancy, it gives him happiness and expectancy of doing other and better things. So the religious Jews, they always have, for example, this particular mitzvah, you have to do the Steinmaker Ekatargim, you have to do it every week, and you feel good. You do it, you set yourself a way and a time and a method of doing it, and you accomplish it, and you feel good after you've done it. And likewise, we always have holidays which we're getting ready for. You know, the person's getting ready for Pesach, he's getting ready for Shavuos, then he's getting ready for, after that, there's the Yom Haroim, there's Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot. So he feels good. He does these mitzvahs, and he has regular daily mitzvahs. He wants to daven with a minyan. He goes to daven with a mitten, goes on talis and tefillin, says Shema. So he feels very good about himself. So that gives a person. This is what they discovered. This is what the Israeli universities discovered. This was not a mishkiach or Rosh Yeshiva giving a shmuz. This is something the universities discovered.
And what about learning, Rebbe?
Definitely so. The person feels good about learning. Learning definitely.
Sitting and learning.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. The person feels invigorated through the learning. It excites him. It captivates him. It involves him in many different ways. He engages his mind and his emotions, his feelings, his intellect. And that keeps a person busy and keeps a person happy as well. And that gives a person with these things, a person has more of an opportunity of having a good long life. And that's what it turns out.
I think we have to ask, is there something specific and special about this learning of the Parsha Shavua, as opposed to, like Barry is saying, what about sitting and learning Gemara? What about sitting and learning Pierke Avos? We learn a lot of stuff. Is it different for this?
So it could be. So maybe now we can see. Maybe that's basically, I think, what the Maharal is asking. That's, I think, the Maharal Prague's question. I think you should have gotten it in your email.
I got it.
Program. So if you want, you can I'll put it on the screen as well. Just give me a moment. Put it on the screen, and we can look at that in a moment together. Let's see. Did you get the copy that you got? That was with the Maharal with it as well?
I see Rav Huna.
Is that with Nativot Olam on it, Rabbi?
Yeah, I have the
Yes.
Tivot Olam.
Yes, that's what.
Is that the
Okay,
Maharal?
very good. Yeah,
Okay,
that should be the Maharal. That's the receiver.
Oh, Prague.
Now, all right.
I see
That's right.
Prague here.
Okay, I'm just trying to get it on my thing here. Let's see.
Nativ is a path.
Okay. Okay, should be coming up on the screen in a moment. Okay.
I've got it printed out. If you're having trouble, I don't need it on the screen.
Okay, yeah, it should be, it's just moving slow. We can start it if you want, if everyone else has it, because you can reading it. Okay, here we are. Okay, it'll be coming up on your screen in a minute. We can start.
So,
This is a safer from the Maharamik, bro.
Ubeperech Kama Devir Kos, the brachos, in the first
The
chapter of brachos.
brachas, that's of brachas. That's the first parak in the Gemara in brachas.
Amar Rabbi Huna B'rei Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Amai, Le'olam Yashlim Adam Parshiosav Im Hatzibur Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum. Okay, so that's the same thing we read already. If somebody reads twice in one translation, Vafilu Taros Vidibor
Vidivon.
Vidivon, and even with the places, names of places, Shechol Hamashlim Parshiosav Im Hatzibor, anyone who completes his parsha with the Sibor, Marichin Lo Yamav Vishanotav, close quote. So that's our quote.
Right.
V'yesh l'sh'ol lama shnayim mikra ve'echad targum, and there is to ask why two readings and one translation.
Yeah, which I think that's basically your question, Lou. I think he's basically asking why specifically is this mitzvah of Shtayim Echad Mikatargum singled out as being beneficial for Arikas Yamim and Shanim?
Okay. V'yesh lomar, and he answers, he mitzino shehatorah nasna bahar Sinai. We find that the Torah was given on Har Sinai. V'nasnis ba'ohel moed.
Ba'oid Moed. It was repeated again. It was repeated again in the Oil Moed.
Okay. It was repeated in the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting. The nish kalasha be'arvos Moav, and something in the plains of Moab.
And it was repeated the third time in the Arvis Moav.
Third time. Uvar.
So the first thing he's approaching is that, meaning he's asking particularly now, he's answering why it might be that there's particularly a triple reading. You have two times the pasuk and one time the targum, which is a triple reading. So a direct answer to that question would be that it was repeated, the Torah was repeated three times. So that could be an answer to why you need to do it 3 times.
Okay, so once at Har Sinai, I understand. Once in the Ohel Moed, I understand. But the plains of Moab, what's that referring to?
That was the time when the Moshe Rabbeinu repeated the Torah for Klal Yisrael when they were on the portal of entering Eretz Israel.
Oh, right. Okay. But that wasn't the entire Torah, was it?
To a certain extent, it was. Yeah, the Torah was I mean, there was still a little bit that was left incomplete, but that was there was the complete Torah for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and in the plains of Moab, Haya Bior HaTorah. What?
Right. In the Arvis Moyev, it was the explanation, the elaboration, the explanation of the Torah.
Kedeksiv Ho'il Moshe Ba'ar Es HaTorah. And that it's written since Moshe. What is Ba'ar?
That's the Be'er. Be'er is like the explanation, Be'er HaTorah. That's the Be'er of the explanation of the Torah, with the explanation of the Torah. So in Arvis Moyav, there was a further elaboration and explanation of the Torah.
Okay. And then there's a bunch of abbreviations.
So this is Perish. So Perish Rashi Zachron V'Bracha. The Ayin Lashon. It was elaborated in the 70 languages.
Lefichach Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum Shehu Bi'or HaTorah. Therefore, 2 readings and 1 translation that he explained the Torah. Ki ein tarich shebaim lashon rak. That it's not necessary to explain in one language. Kol echad. Each one, lefi lishono, in accordance with his language. Vilashon Yisrael, and the language of the Jews. Hahamon Haya Targum. What's Hahamon?
The Lashon Yisrael Hahamon. Hamon means like the general population. The Jewish, the general population of the Jews, the Lashon is their language is the Targum, meaning Aramaic, meaning that was the common language of the Jews. It was Aramaic.
Okay. Ulefichach tzarich shnayim mikra, and therefore we need 2 readings. Ve'echad Targum, and 1 translation.
Right.
Okay, so I got a little bit lost here. It's not necessary to explain in one language each one in accordance with his language.
Right. Meaning the explanation, when you explain the Torah, you have to explain it each person to the language that he understands.
But he's saying it's not ein tzarich. It's not necessary to explain to each one in his language.
No, well, you don't, it ain't so extreme, you don't, you don't need really, I mean, each person doesn't need 70 languages, right? If you're trying to explain it to one person, you don't have to say it over to him in 70 different languages. He's gonna most easily understand something in his own personal language, right? So not for each person do you need 70 languages.
Okay, the Targum is in the language of the common people. Therefore, the Targum is accomplishing the role of each one in his own language,
Right, right.
as
I'll
opposed
tell you,
to
could be, yeah, go ahead.
as opposed to the reading in Hebrew, I guess, which is not in his own language.
Right, that wouldn't be in the common language, right? That wouldn't be in the common language. So so that's why there's the Stein Mikra with Targum, the Targum being in the language that people most readily understand.
Okay.
Uh-huh. All right, I tell you, maybe we're not going to finish this today anyway. We can continue with this for another day or so if you want. We'll finish this up. And let's take a little break and we'll continue on with the second volume of the Mishnah Brew in the beginning there. A few minutes.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi.
Taking a break? Okay.
Yeah, taking a break now, Barry. We'll be back in a few minutes.